It was kind of like right off the top. I forgot.
Sorry.
I just want to find out.
Meet you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty good, isn't it? Thanks, Brittany. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
I honestly assume that this would be.
Oh, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
But I have a fuzzy camera.
Yeah,
That's better.
thank you.
Here's my radio face. We'll give it a couple more minutes and then I'll jump right in. Okay, well, let me get us started off here like we always do. We'll open it up for public comment. So greetings to everyone. Welcome to today's Spokane Regional Law Justice Meeting. We'll open it up with a 15-minute period for public comment. With a reminder, there's 3-minute limit per individual. Speakers should address the matters which are within the powers and duties of the Spokane Regional Law Justice Council. Speakers should also identify themselves and address the chair. Council members will not engage in the dialogue with the speakers. If you'd like to comment and have not done so already, send a chat message to the admin administrator, and she'll give you a speaker number, and we'll announce it when it's your turn to speak. So we'll start the clock now. While we're waiting, Judge Fassbender, Aaron, Justin, Katie, did you guys all receive the email from Judge Hazel?
I did, yes.
Just wanted to make sure. Okay, you see any comments, Medea?
I don't have any comments.
Nothing. No one has sent up an email or anything prior to this? No one has. Okay.
Nope.
All right. Having seen no responses or have any responses from the public, we'll move on. We'll open it up with adopting the August 9th SRLJC minutes for approval. Do I have, first off, did everyone receive a copy of it? Review? Okay, super. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll motion to approve the minutes from the August 9th, 2023 SRLJC meeting.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, this is Tim. I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. The ayes have it. It moves forward unanimously. I don't see anybody else that would indicate otherwise, and nothing in the chat. So we'll move on with business. I have a couple exciting things to share with you, or actually one exciting thing to share with you. We do have someone that has shown interest in the racial inequity chair position, which has been something we've been kind of wanted it for a long time here. Her name is Jennifer Morton. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Jennifer Morton or not. She's a councilwoman at Airway Heights. She has a pretty extensive resume, including a master's in business administration that she possesses. She's worked in HR consulting. She worked for the city of Spokane, and she's prior military, and so she has a very good resume. And in her letter of interest, excuse me, it's been a long day. It's actually been a long week, and it's only Tuesday, or Wednesday. What did it say? Wednesday? Jeez, Louise. Anyway, so she stated that I'm enthusiastic about the council's goal to create a cost-effective regional criminal justice system that aligns with the community objectives of public safety, accountability, just punishment, appropriate treatment, and reducing recidivism. These objectives resonate with me deeply, and I'm eager to contribute to their realization. So next steps on this are to submit it to the Board of County Commissioners, along with a copy of her letter of interest and resume. And then they'll have an opportunity to look over it. They can set up one-on-ones with them if they want to. They do, we'll let you know. We'll send out an email to let you know that that's transpiring. She couldn't make it today. Unfortunately, she wanted to come and just at least introduce herself today. She had a prior engagement that she couldn't get out of, so she won't be here. But I'm super interested in her, in talking with her. It seems like she has shared goals of many of us, and that she's going to be able to fulfill the role. She certainly has a skill set to organize, the regional or the racial inequity committee, forming it, running the meeting, taking the minutes, and then reporting back out to the larger group on some of the things that they would like to, see incorporated in some of the decisions we're making, along with, input from the racial inequity toolkit. Justin, she also would like to join your group on the racial inequity. So we're going to kind of point in your direction too, as well, to plug in with it, because she wants to be a part of the conversation and take it to a larger audience, which is the community. So I just told her that would be not an issue. And so I'll certainly point her out your direction. Did you have any comments, Justin?
Mike, the one thing that I have a question about is historically individuals that were system actors or elected officials have never been allowed to fill those community spots because they are essentially not members of the community at large, but are actually part of sort of the mechanism that runs the government. And so I just wonder even about her eligibility based upon her position as a member of the city council there in Airway Heights.
Okay. And Justin, is that in the bylaws? Did you see?
I'm discussing how we have governed the SRLJC from the inception back in 15. I don't know that was ever put in there, but that was fairly consistent. And we did have individuals that had applied years ago that were in a similar situation that were rejected. We had individuals that were attorneys for the city. One particular that had worked for our public defender's office was rejected. And I believe the same thing for county defender's office. And it was essentially the same argument. You work for the government, regardless of the fact that you are a person of color, you work for the government. We're seeking people from the community to voice for the community, people outside of sort of the power structure. And so I guess I'm a little bit concerned if that's the person you've sort of come up with. They're by their very nature an elected official inside the power structure. I don't believe that is sort of in the spirit of having community engagement.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'm not disagreeing with you. I know that I don't know that it's been included in the bylaws that they can apply. And certainly if the Board of County Commissioners feel that that's going to become an issue for them, and then it doesn't express the spirit that you've expressed, I'll tell you, we haven't had a lot of applicants for this. And So it's been kind of a challenge to kind of fill this role, but it's like a critical role for us. So I'm inclined to let the board make the decision on it, Justin, and then come back and report back to us on what they would like to see. I don't know that to be a conflict. It could be a conflict, but I don't know that to be a conflict. I guess we'd have to see what, the committee she's meeting with and pulls together as committee. She's expressed several figures that we know that have been a part of it before. So I'm wondering if that's going to be a conflict or not. And if it is, certainly it's not in the spirit and it's not in the best of the SRLJC, we can address that. But for the time being, absence of anything in the bylaws that we've seen, I'm inclined to just submit the application and let the board make the decision on it. So,
Mike,
yes,
okay,
Go
so
ahead.
since I worked on the inception of this SRLJC when we went through all the bylaws. I'm not sure if they've been updated. I know there was updates and restructuring that occurred after I left the city.
Yeah.
But I do remember exactly what Justin said. There was a lot of contemplation around that, and that was discussed regarding it being a community member that was not part of the system. And we did have applicants that applied from the Public Defender's Office and from other agencies that work, government agencies, and they were also not deemed eligible at the time. But I'm not sure if it was what the bylaws say right now regarding that particular committee. Because as you recall, it was excruciating process of all the wordsmithing to make sure that the wording was correct, but I'm not sure what the current bylaws say. But Justin is correct regarding that whole discussion.
Yeah, and it's like I said, I'm not disagreeing with Justin at all. I'm just saying that I don't think it's incorporated in the current structure of the SRLJC or included. I think the bylaws are silent to it, Judge. So that's why I'm more inclined to just submit the application as I did with all the other folks that have applied. And if that, seems to be something that arises out of it, then I'll definitely address that. So. Anybody else got any other applicants? I guess that's the next question. Any of the community members, Justin, you have in mind that you want to bring forward?
I had a couple conversations in my effort to try to get people on this board. And I learned through those conversations that there were individuals that had applied that were rejected. I was completely astonished by that because I was under the impression, which I think most of us on this call were, that we had received no applicants. But it does sound like there were a couple people that actually been fairly engaged in SRLJC going back several years that were not approved. I don't know what the timeline was, if it was just when we had 3 members on the council or with 5 members, or the county commission, but they were rejected. So the people that I reached out to that I thought would be good, I guess had already been rejected.
Oh, okay. And I know that some have been rejected by the Board of County Commissioners. I can think of one in particular, but I know that the fairest thing I think what we can do is just keep submitting the applications for it and try to, fulfill the role. So that, I'm open to other comments if everyone has any. So.
Before with this, but I don't know what so again, I've been out of it since 2019 when I left the city. But what we used to do before is the applications would go through the committee, and then they would vet and then make recommendations for appointment to the board. There weren't direct applications that went straight to the commissioners. Is that, or there's a reason why that's changed?
Because it's one application. It's not several that we have to sit down and talk through and interview and have a process for it. One application that's being submitted. And so it's really the Board of County Commissioner's decision, because it's their responsibility for the Spokane Regional Law Justice Council. So, I'd be happy to, and that's what was going to take today, was kind of an introductory thing, and then sit down and talk about it, give us a minute to talk about it. I can hold off on giving the application to the Board of County Commissioners and just instead, have an opportunity for her to introduce ourselves to the panel. If you guys want to, maybe you can ask her specifically of those conflicting, issues that you think might come up. I'm certainly open for that part of it if you guys want to go that direction.
I think, Mike, at least we need to look at the current bylaws. And since this council was reconstituted, in all honesty, I am uncertain what those current bylaws say. So I think we need to review that to determine whether or not they are still sort of exclusive and who fits that definition. I think that's probably the best first step, and whether that's the racial equity work group that currently exists, or if that's just you and Medea as the Office of Law and Justice. But somebody needs to do that before this candidate goes forward, because what we would hate to do is to have all these conversations with her and then put her out to the commission, and then we determine, oops, not eligible. That's just not a good look, especially if we really want to get engagement.
Okay. John?
Yeah, I got the bylaws in front of me. I'm not able to find anything in the part that talks about members at large, but there's definitely an article of Article 14. It talks about conflict of interest, and there are a couple of points in that in Article 14, so that's a place we can look. But I thought there was too prohibition against that, which would upset me in this case, because I think she's fully qualified. But if we go to Article 4, which talks about membership, item D talks about terms of the at-large members, and it doesn't say anything in there about holding another position. And I'm not sure what we did with that, because I was on the committee that approved this, and Gloria, you're right in line on that. We didn't change much when we came back the last time through, and I'm surprised that it's not in there. But I would just advise that we at least take a look at the conflict of interest in Article, what did I say it was, 14? Yeah, 14. So anyhow, I've got it here, but any.
And again, I'm not disagreeing with either the judge or with Justin, because I know in the spirit, I remember in the composition, those conversations did come up. I just remember when I was looking at Rochelle, when she came on board, I did look through those articles, and I don't remember seeing anything in there about them holding a different office like you're saying, or that it would be a conflict. But we could go through. I think all of you have a copy of the bylaws. If not, and you can't locate yours, I'll have Medea send them back out again so we can review it together. But we'll certainly look through that part of it, Justin. So just to make sure. So, yeah, Tim.
And just to piggyback on it, I was pretty sure, John, and we put a section in there about qualifications for committees. Because I remember sitting with the judge and Justin and you all working on those bylaws. I thought we had a section about committees. Look for the committee section. And I want to say that was like section 10, but I thought we had an area in there where we outlined about committees and what the qualifications were for the committees. And I did thought we made that particular committee a community committee only. But I'm digging through I'm trying to find my bylaws right now to dig through that. I thought that's what we said.
So perhaps it makes most sense to table that for this meeting and then take the time in between to do some due diligence and figure out.
Yeah, and to your
Brad?
point, we'll hold back the application part of it until we take a look at the bylaws on it. And if anybody finds it before I do, let me know, because I certainly don't remember reading anything like that in there. But it is possible that I've missed some section or didn't see, some area that included that language in it. Like John, I was a part of the bylaws committee that did the bylaws, and I don't recall that at all. But
Yeah, I don't see anything in section 10, Tim, with regard to what we're talking about. About, having a position.
I agree with the judge. Let's give us a chance to sit back and dig through and read through the bylaws, and I think we'll find our answer.
okay. Yeah, but I definitely will abide by the bylaws if it does, have that language in it, then we'll have to shift gears and go back out again and try to find some other folks and then let her know that she's not eligible because she holds a role, you know, it just seems it's kind of hard. I mean, because she's also a member of the community in a part, so it's really sounds to me like more of a trust thing as far as working with the government and seeing purposeful change, or I don't know.
Well, Mike, though, the reason that we did that, it was very intentional, was that we wanted to gain legitimacy with people that are not in power, that don't have a say, and provide them the ability to speak. And I think that, you know, we start putting on elected officials that may fit certain demographic roles, that's not really providing that source of input. So, you know, as just a matter of principle, I would much prefer having somebody that is out in the community doing whatever else they do, but doesn't hold an elected position, that can make decisions as to budget or other things. I think there's a role for our council members. We have specific groups of people on this, that's what they do. They represent a government. There is a rotation for our municipal governments. Airway Heights is in that. That seat is currently held by a council member from the city of the Valley. So I see it almost as double dipping. I'll be flat out honest with you. I think if we really want to have robust community engagement, we have to engage people that are outside of the spheres of government and power. And that's just my take on it. I may be the only person that has that opinion, but I feel like, you know, we have struggled as this council has been reconstituted. We don't have people here from the community to ask questions. We don't have people here for our comment period. Mm-hmm. We have to do better, and we have to be more intentional in bringing people in. And hopefully that will also bring in that communication, because I think if we ever want to have true legitimacy, we're going to have to, you know, engage ourselves and have some hard conversations. And, you know, at least that's my thoughts.
Yeah, and I think the composition of the committee itself, you know, and I guess I'm looking at it kind of two different ways. One, you know, quite honestly, the chair that we had before didn't do a very good job of reporting out to the board, and didn't work, you know, intimately with the board to see some significant changes, because it just didn't materialize. And so the skill set that I think is necessary for this role is someone that has that ability to pull together a committee, run a committee, produce the minutes, the kind of minutes that we need to do to inform the panel. And so I'm looking at it as kind of two ways. One, I'm agreeing with your point, Justin. And number two is that does whoever chairs over this committee, is it as important as the composition of the committee itself? So I'm kind of going back and forth on both of those two things. So, Judge Vespiner?
Oh, yes, I was gonna say, and Justin, you're not alone. I mean, I agree in the fashion that the position has always been and always had the intention of having a community member, not having ties to a government agency. And I can't tell you, I don't know this particular council member, but they are tied to government, so to speak. And so in the spirit of maintaining that transparency, and then the spirit of what that position was meant for, I agree with you, Justin. I think that's what we need to hold firm on.
And I'll voice these opinions to the board, and let them know that, listen, it's the council would really like to have a community member chair this. You know, she's made applications, so I've got to follow through with the process, but it doesn't mean that, and then I can explain the reasons why, in the spirit of why we did it in the first place. So, any other comments on that before we go?
Yeah, real quick, Mike, this has been something that's been troubling all of us for quite some time, and I'm just wondering if there's another way that we can communicate the need to the community at large. I know we've tried, we've put out our, through regular channels. This is a weak link for us, and I'm hoping that we could, put another message out some way, because we're being rejected by that community. I think it's, as I see it, there's a firm rejection in what we're doing. They don't want to be involved with us at this point. And so we have to go. I think it's a good idea if we try some other channels in order to make the need known, because certainly somebody will step up and apply if they knew it was available.
Yeah, John, again, I'm leaning more towards what Justin is saying. You know, my excitement of having somebody finally applied went out the door here. But, you know, you're right. This is one thing we don't want to rush. This is one area, because we've got to really develop trust back in that community, you know, part of it. And so, I will, like I said, John, we've got somehow or another, we've got to get out to the community and get them engaged, you know what I'm saying? And with the right skill sets and the ability to pull this community together, hold regular meetings, you know, formalize the minutes, and be able to report back to the larger group. And it requires a certain skill set, which was kind of what intrigued me the most about Jennifer when she applied. I was like, wow, she's definitely got the skill sets to pull this thing together and have a, you know, a well-formed committee and then pull this back for us, you know. But I'm hoping there's some other ones out there that would apply for it. And again, I'm all ears I'm all out of suggestions. If you guys have any suggestions on how to get these right people and get them in the door, I'm all ears. Okay, so.
Do we have an advertising budget?
Not yet, but maybe we need to establish one. Yes,
You know, yeah. So
but I
just
think
word of mouth. I mean, we, you know, use our media.
Well, and I think, Judge, it's more grassroots than that. I think, you know, it's us visiting the communities and asking, you know, if there's any interest in it. But to John's point, there's a lot of mistrust out there, and it's really hard to get people to want to buy into what we're doing, because they just, quite honestly, back to Justin, but we haven't done a lot with it. And so, you know, if we could find that right community member, like I said, with the skill set, I'm all in. That'd be fantastic. So,
is Jennifer able to attend like our race equity subcommittee, and then we'd leave that official position open, that community member position, but she's still able to join and bring her expertise and her lived experience?
Again, we'd have to go back to the bylaws. I mean, does that preclude her from even being a participant in the committee?
Historically, no. Our committees had plenty of members that were not part of the council. We brought in especially subject matter experts. Tim and I ran the technology committee, and we had the heads of both of our IT departments that were part of that, because they were subject matter experts and actually very, you know, important members of our committee for a long, long time. And I know that was the case across the spectrum. So I think Rochelle is spot on, that regardless of what happens with this application, that, you know, the person that you've identified, she's got an awesome resume. And, you know, there's probably a reason she was elected to her office. And so that's the kind of, you know, individual that does add a lot. My only point that I've been making isn't that she's not qualified. It's just that point of government connection. So if we have people that, especially from all the other communities in our region, that want to be part of these committees, they're going to be great resources to try to get this work done. So I strongly agree with what Rochelle just suggested.
That they could actually participate as part of the committee. And I know that on the racial inequity, when they first formed it, it was Judge Maurer and myself that was on that committee. You know, we're part of the boards and the other part of it. So yeah, but I have to reread the bylaws and take a look at it. And it maybe is something that we may need to bring up as part of our bylaws. And if it's not there, have it stated and readdress it. So, okay, I'm good with that. So I'll hold on. What I hear you saying is, Mike, your enthusiasm is premature. Hold on to the application. see what you can do. And I'll go back, like I said, but I think it's important for us, and I'm hearing exactly what you said. It's important for us to share this with the board and say, listen, if we really want to connect to make the correct kind of connection, these are the kind of people that, you know, we feel we should be targeting. So, all right. Okay, I do have, Christy Ray was not able to be here for the report out on the mental health. And I'll read what she has right here. She said, all members of the mental health work group have independently reviewed their agencies as it relates to the mental health programming services and have identified both areas of excellence and areas that need improvement. The work group will meet again next week to review and discuss the responses. The intention is to identify mental health initiatives that could impact our system as a whole and also be sustainable. Is there anybody else from that group that could kind of chime in on Christy Ray's update for the mental health stuff? Anybody at all? All right, seeing no one. Let's have a report out on the other one. So I guess we'll start off with diversion, because I understand that you guys had a pretty good conversation with the MacArthur Foundation, Aaron. So
yeah, I'll speak for our group. In fact, two things. We met last week on September 6th. And then just this morning, we met with Marianne Clear from the Justice Management Institute and talked through our current diversion program and ways we might look at that going forward. But I guess just going back to our meeting last week, it was Katie, Colin, Chris Thompson from the Sheriff's Office is there, and then Justin Bingham was there, myself and Kelly Fox. We just talked about the new systems we have in place about flagging diversion cases at the point of first appearance. So pretty much immediately, you know, within 24 hours after arrest, they're being flagged as potentially diversion eligible. That process is going well. We're having good communication. I think we've flagged about 150 cases since we started that. So there's a lot of names out there. So that's good. On Justin's side on the city, they're doing that as well. And I think it sounds like they're having really good success noting specialty court diversion eligibility. And they have a lot of programs on their side as well, but that's getting put on their own first appearance evaluations and documents. So that's good for them. Like Justin pointed out, flagging cases doesn't equal buy-in from clients. So there's still that, you know, big obstacle of fail to appears and keeping people involved in case processing and getting them to diversion sooner rather than later. Like Katie McNulty had said, you know, six months, a year later, now we're talking diversion. That's a problem. We need to get things towards diversion sooner. So that's kind of what we're all focusing on. I'll just kind of skip ahead a bit, but Chris Thompson from the Sheriff's Office suggested or offered the idea of compiling a list of all of our current programs, taking an inventory, which we did. Justin got me a list of the city's programs. Katie sent me a list of all the county. I just sent that over to Chris Thompson in the Sheriff's Department. And so now they have a working list of all the programs available. And he raised the idea of maybe including that in reports, like, you know, the officer in the field might have an idea of, well, this person could be potentially, you know, not a guarantee, of course, but potentially diversion eligible in some capacity, some court between county and city. So that's the Sheriff's Department. We're trying to rope in on that, get them involved. And yeah, just looking ahead, potential areas of growth. I know the county's discussed maybe trying to get a DV court going as far as like diversion. And then the city, Justin raised, you know, possibly a shoplifting court down the road. It was an idea he had. So we're just kind of spitballing ideas right now. And then in our discussion with Marianne Clear this morning, as well as Amy from that, the JMI, it might be worthwhile for those of us in the diversion programs to maybe do a site visit or go to some other courts in Washington State that are doing really well. Just reach out and see what they're doing. We have, you know, partners over in, or colleagues, I should say, over in Snohomish County, Thurston, Pierce, Clark, most of them on the west side, but we could potentially go see how they're doing, what's working for them, and get some good feedback. So that's what we discussed.
And then, Eric, did I get those kind of summarized in minutes?
Yep.
So that I have something, because I want to be, you know, bragging about the work that's been accomplished by us.
Yep.
That would be helpful.
I'll send that over.
To add to that, I thought I saw you were gonna say something. Katie?
Nope, nothing to add, just I feel like it's been a productive conversation, so step in the right direction.
Yeah, yeah, and then Justin, I didn't know if you had anything either you want to add to that part of it. But
One of the things I would add that it was really great to have law enforcement in the room. Because one of the things that we discussed in that meeting was that law enforcement sees the individual at the point of arrest. And they many times have conversations outside of that. The person indicates they have issues or this or that, that's why I'm doing it. And we see this in reports all the time where someone will note, this person would be a great candidate for, veterans court because of the issues that they put forward. And having that information and then educating law enforcement on what our options are, I thought Chris had a great idea. And I think it's a great partnership. He wasn't talking about implementing like a lead program like they have in King County, but just more of a partnership with law enforcement so they understand what are the options once I've submitted my report, I've filed the complaint, and I'm done. Because at that point, they're only really engaged at trial, but most of these cases don't go to trial. But they may have, some help to sort of, guide our paths with things that they see at the time of arrest. So that was a really great part of that meeting we had last week.
awesome. Good deal. Anybody from the group want to speak out?
Yeah, Mike, I just wanted to jump in from the meeting this morning. Justin, sorry you weren't there, but we'll fill you in. One of the comments that was made towards the end of it, I thought was a good question. They asked what was the demographics of those folks entering the diversion program. And we didn't have a good answer for that. And I think part of the problem is we don't have any way of tracking that. We talked about this morning, which we'll continue to look into, possibly adding some additional boxes or other information that can be checked in the diversion paperwork, kind of like we do for judgment and sentences on the felony side or superior court side, where you can actually check ethnicity or race or whatever and get some other statistical, data that would be helpful in determining whether or not, well, how are we doing as far as race equity is concerned? How are we doing as far as demographics, and what do those numbers actually look like? So that was added too, and I thought it was a good idea, and we might be able to make some progress there.
Yeah.
I was going to say one thing I think it's important to recognize too is that we have, pre-arrest diversions too. I mean, we utilize the mental health crisis stabilization facility, and we're trying to divert before they even go into the arrest system and that kind of stuff. So our officers do use that as a resource. It's probably something that should be, accounted for when we have these discussions.
Yeah, you guys are pretty heavy utilizers of it too, aren't you, from the sheriff's office? Yeah.
Especially for our behavioral health unit teams and our homeless outreach teams.
Yeah. It'd be good to kind of quantify those things or put those things together, Aaron, so that I have I could be talking about the diversion things that are not only in place, but the future state and, kind of the future state we're looking for, even though it's not totally realized that at this point, but at least I have something to talk about as far as where the diversion efforts are going, you know what I'm saying? So if you could just, it doesn't, high level, it doesn't have to be super, complicated, just put together something that can sum some of those things up. And also to Chief Ellis's point too, as well as some have already occurring, they're doing out of field, it might be another check to law enforcement or what have you, but yeah. Anybody else? Judge?
And like I say, I'm not on that committee, but we are going to have a stakeholders presentation October 3rd that I'm arranging with Jamie Knox that does the 5177 diversion program for mental health. And then also the folks from the Forensic Navigators from Eastern State that also do a mental health diversion program to give an update. So that both of those work on pulling individuals or cases that are either pre-filed or already filed that have been designated as needing mental health to their specific diversion programs already in place.
Yeah, if you could capture those two as well, Aaron.
Mhm. So and Aaron, you'd be, if you'd like, you're more than welcome to come if you'd like to attend that. I'll send you a copy of the invite.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Anything else on the diversion side? Okay, how about the therapeutic side, Tim?
Okay, we have not met yet this month. We're still in the data collecting phase right now. I got a great report out of district court on all the information, answering a lot of our questions from Judge Fassbender. I'm still working on Superior Court, and I need to get the rest of my data collected out of municipal court. I still got to get Medea some information too, to start doing some data collection in that area. So that's what we're doing right now. We're trying to create our baseline of where to operate from. What do we currently have going on, and then where to go from there. So that's it for us right now. Judge Fassbender, anything you want to add since I got that report from you?
Nothing, just, we've got district court, therapeutic courts up and running, doing well.
Yeah. So,
So if we,
Mike.
I'm sorry, so, are you at a point, Tim, when you, like Aaron, you can kind of rough out a current state and then future state and some of the things, or you think you need a little more time to gather the information?
We can have a current state done by next meeting.
Okay.
We have a little over a third of the information we need. We need to collect out of 2 more courts, but I should be getting that shortly anyways.
I just have this feeling that, all the time that I should be tooting the horn for you guys, because there's a lot of good things going on in Spokane. But unless we talk about it and get it out in front of them, nobody ever knows about it, And so I really want to, have that opportunity to voice some of the good work you guys are doing and pulling together. So
Well,
that's the reason.
therapeutic courts are extremely effective in Spokane. They really are. If you look at some of the data across the state, our courts are pretty effective.
Yeah.
And then, I can't remember who just said it. Maybe it was Aaron, talked about a DV court, because we've been talking about it at the Superior Court level just because of the volume. I mean, again, we're around 44 protection orders a day, and that's nothing to brag about. That's not something to be proud of.
Yeah, that's
But we
insane.
lead the state, but that's just, and then maybe a community court at the district court level, just things that are just being talked about, on how to broaden. But, what we have right now is good. If we get too broad, then you become mediocre and everything and not good at anything. So I like the fact that we're good in what courts we are doing. So.
Right. But I would like to see a DV court if you could pull that off, because that would be.
I think a DV court, and you have a DV docket already. So, I mean, you're kind of already there. It's just the wraparound services that come thereafter. And everything's automated. So, I mean, you're kind of already there. You just got to formalize it.
Yeah. And like I say, and if I'm not mistaken, Judge Ochoa, the DV court has already started in municipal court just recently, even.
It has started, but we're having some challenges to get it launched. But we do have the infrastructure in place, and we're troubleshooting. So we're happy to do share lessons learned, and these this particular issue is a big issue for the community, in Spokane County with domestic violence.
Yeah.
What we've learned, Tim, are the DV offenders aren't exactly raising their hands wanting to be sent to treatment. So Judge Ochoa is spot on. We've had some issues, but I'll be honest with you. Just like you said, this issue is so important to Spokane County because our numbers are so much higher than the rest of the state that we're going to keep on doing it. And we've had some really good brainstorming sessions. I was able to go this last week, and our DV team is dedicated to making this court work. And so we're going to try to figure out ways to get people more engaged so they'll want to participate. So, I know that we're trying hard. It would be awesome if district court and Superior Court could also, be in that fight, because our numbers are consistent across all 3 courts. They're too high, and they have been for many, many, many years.
Yeah, and this is one of those situations where, you do great every single day, but the one day you miss something, the results could be catastrophic. And there's a lot of side notes to this. For example, Judge Fassbender and I and our teams are working on name changes that are also part of a DV protection order. There's a whole series of new laws on name changes, and all that could tie into, in certain cases, to protection orders. And that's a substantial thing. And then we also have electronic service. That's a big issue in the state on electronic service, but law enforcement has some criteria they want involved if they start doing electronic service. So there's just a lot of things that tie into all of this that, would be very beneficial to the community.
Is the treatment, let me ask you a question, is the treatment still a 1-year program for domestic violence? Does it take 12 months to get through it?
For the
Is
high
it
risk
really-
folks, it's a 26-week program. There's like 12, 24, and 26 or 26. Yeah. So there's three different levels of that they can assess at, but the longest one is the 1-year program.
And
That-
still
you
not
know,
covered by insurance.
That was my second question. Is it covered by insurance yet? No.
Unlike alcohol, drug treatment, counseling sessions, but no, specifically the DV per program is not covered.
Yes,
we
the
had
city,
that
the
challenge,
city
so-
was able.
Go ahead, Judge, go ahead.
The city, for our program, we were able to get a grant through AOC, to therapeutic court grant program, to pay for the treatment. So it includes payment for treatment. And then we got a federal grant too that also covers for outside the therapeutic court. But that's really the only way, because it's specifically for Spokane Municipal Court, the majority of the people that come through here are in poverty level and they can't afford it. And so this is really going to really help, even if on the non-therapeutic court side, being able to have the ability to have it ordered and then paid for.
Yeah, I was gonna add on, Mike, in the Veterans Court, the anger management, the MRT class is 23 weeks long, but we can get that by running them through the VA, and the VA will pay for it. So that's an advantage that Veterans Court has, but the other courts don't. So again, it'd be helpful to get funding that enable these courts to do some of the treatment classes that they need to give.
Is there only one treatment provider out in town that provides that? Is it like a specialized niche, or is there several of them that?
Oh, I think there's several of them.
Yeah.
At least 2 that I'm aware of, but I think there's more than that.
It'd be nice to have one of them employed by the jail or incorporated so they could take programming or start their programming at some point. I don't know, but as part of the community correction center coming up, and I don't know, just ideas that might be helpful on that part of it too. So, well, that's cool. So all 3 of your courts are working together at that one, and that's good. That's some good stuff right there. So that, again, I think that our community would be interested in hearing our justice departments are working together to deal with what Justin says. It's just an extreme level of domestic violence cases for our area, and then targeting that area, and try to come up with some creative, therapeutic courts for it. So I think it's good stuff. Anything else on that front? No? Okay,
So-
racial inequity.
So, Mike, the Racial Equity Work Group met on August 16th. Colin, Katie, Rochelle, myself, that's the whole work group. And as we've already discussed, and I think we probably don't need to discuss further, we don't have that community perspective from person of color we think would be very useful. Certainly Rochelle is our community group, and I will be honest with you, she is an exceptional addition to this council. Being able to work with her directly in this, I'm just blown away by her experience and just thoughtfulness on this issue. So not part of the official report, but just my personal kudos to Rochelle for the wonderful voice that she lends to our work group. Because otherwise you just got a whole bunch of lawyers in the room, and that's no fun. So what we decided was, well, we don't really have as much of a directive. We felt like at this point, you mentioned it previously, like an interim list of what we've got going on. We have some interim suggestions that we believe would be very important for this council, as well as all the different departments, to do now. And the main thing was something that we discussed at our last meeting, and actually John Haley was very insistent on this. And our first thing is to actually implement the race equity tool now. We passed this nearly 2 years ago, and yet we have not really used it across the board or even in a singular issue. And so it has been dispersed by Medea. All of our members have it. We all run different offices, different departments. So as we look at different decisions that we're making and changes, it would be important, almost imperative for us to actually, put our money where our mouth is and use the tool. So our first recommendation is that we should have a commitment to use the tool. But our second recommendation is almost as important as the first, and that's train on the utilization of the tool. Not just say, here's the tool, go forth and conquer, but we need to, whether it's the Office of Law and Justice or whatever, provide training to the organizations that are part of the SRLJC family on the implementation, utilization of the race equity tool. And that requires probably, Mike, training for you specifically as our leader, because we most likely will have a train the trainer model because of expense. But it probably means that you, as the Director of Law and Justice, needs to have fairly extensive training on a plethora of different issues when it comes to race equity, so that you can then lead the conversation effectively and also push that down to other department heads that you supervise. Beyond just the race equity tool, number 3 on our list is ongoing training on race, equity, privilege, and trauma. One of the things that I felt that Rochelle did well is to really bring that victim's voice to this as well, because many of the victims that we have in our system are persons of color, and they have a very different perspective than many of us that aren't. And so having that conversation, and what she said, and I wrote this down specifically, was ongoing training. Many times what we have done and other communities have done, we'll have a training, and that's the end of it. We discussed, as part of our MacArthur grant, we had the race equity training several years ago. It was a singular event. It was a very large event. Most of us here went to that. And it was in the jury room at Superior Court in the annex. And we all did that training, but that was the end of it. And if we are serious about the race equity work, we have to commit ourselves to continuous training, because people change, they move in and out of our employment, and we have to keep current on these issues. So a commitment for ongoing training on race, equity, privilege, and trauma. One of the things that we discussed was maybe this would be where employing an outside consultant would be very beneficial, not just the trainer that we're talking about previously, but also an outside consultant that is fairly well versed in these issues. Number 4 is something we've also talked about today, partnership with and input from community organizations. One of the things that we talked about in our meeting was that many of these organizations, such as the NAACP, the Martin Luther King Center, the Karl Maxey Center, they already do lots of work in not only the DEI sphere, but also in criminal justice. So they have parts of their organization that are really already focused in these areas. And so we, as the SRLJC, should really reach out to them and bring them in as part of the conversation. And we talked about regaining our legitimacy. I think partnering with and receiving direct input from them will go a long way. One of the other things that we talked about, number 5, was reaching out and Mike, reaching out and working with the other parts of the SRLJC to make it more functional. And one of the things on that, we were going to make a suggestion was that if we want people to be more engaged with our SRLJC meetings, we probably need to have them more focused. And that was probably one big topic every month, because what we unfortunately have been doing for the last couple of years are these hodgepodge meetings, and they just sort of jump around. If we want real engagement, especially on important issues as race or DEI work, we probably need to really commit ourselves to really focusing on a singular task, discussing it, coming up with solutions, instead of doing a lot of things at the same time. I understand why we're doing this inventory right now, but I think once we get past that, that is a recommendation that we would make as well, is to really be focused in our work as council, because that will hopefully provide some benefits down the road with our community outreach in race equity. So those are the 5 things that we came up as intermediate goals that we could put forward. Certainly this is not an exhaustive list, but these are the things that we felt like that we could probably do, sooner rather than later. But then if we can get ourselves more community engagement, we can get more people involved in the work, we can probably branch out and, sort of fill in a lot more in this area.
Yeah, that's good stuff, Justin. If we do, once we get past kind of getting these groups down, figuring out exactly where we'd like to push the region as far as the things that we're talking about, if our category for the month on that agenda is race and equity, we'll probably get a lot more community involvement if they know about what the topic is going to be and want to have, public input to it. So I agree with that 100%. Thinking about the training portion of it, it almost seems to me like our HR department would become a part of this, because we have, I don't know if the city does, but the county has a platform for education that both could take. And some of the things are mandatory, some aren't, and this would have to be something that would go to the board level. They would have to adopt this as part of their policy for the county employees, if that's where the direction they'd like to see it go in. But I could see a benefit of the trainers, and then having somebody that was able to do those. And then if it's like, for us, sexual harassment is an every year thing. I mean, that's a bad example, but that's, you know what I'm saying? Every year we have to sit through the program, sign off that we understand it, and then move on. Or maybe it's every 2 years. I don't know. It's one of those 2 things, but that would be kind of along the lines of that too.
I think Rochelle wanted to say something, but that was one of the things we talked about, was this cannot be check the box territory. This has got to be fairly, almost, I hate to use the word intimate, but these are hard conversations. But I don't know if Rochelle, because this was one of the things you were discussing in our meeting about, we can't have this be check the box territory. So I don't know if you want to sort of expound on that.
Yeah, well, let me qualify real quick. Not check the box. I'm talking about some accountability, making sure that it gets accomplished and that it's targeting the right. That's what I referred to.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Rochelle.
No, I was just saying Justin summed that up perfectly. Thank you for reiterating that. I think that was exactly the things we discussed. And yeah, I just really, really encourage this group, and Mike, you specifically, to like re-engage those community partners. And I think even with that, then we may, then have our community member exactly who we need them, but showing that like effort and engagement, I think will go a long way. And a lot of the things that we talk about are what those groups meet about and talk about on a monthly basis, and probably have a lot of our answers and suggestions, whether we take them or not. But instead of recreating the wheel is a great starting point.
Good point. So Justin, would you be feel comfortable to reducing that down to like a quick sheet, a writing sheet?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've got it on my legal pad. I can type it out and send it to you, Medea.
Okay, super. And the reason is that, like, again, I'd like to kind of put together what we're working on and just give a report card. Hey, this is what's going on with the SRLJC. They're working on some really tough issues right now, and these are some things they're tackling, And in those meetings, they'll probably start off at the senior level, but Ashley Cameron's a part of those conversations, and the head of our HR department. She might become engaged with some of those and say, hey, these are some suggestions on, how we can implement that and how we can make that something that's a reality, So Good stuff. That's good stuff too. So wow, you guys have all made a lot of progress on your groups, and I'm impressed. So, and I'm going to be really anxious to report that out to the Board of County Commissioners. So anyway, anything else for the good of the cause that we want to talk about? Just, open session here. So anything at all? No? Well, I kind of got off on a sour note, but I was so excited to finally have someone do it that I couldn't wait to share it with you guys. Hey, we got somebody that's volunteer, but I'll go back and look at the bylaws and I'll check those out and see if that's the way it can go. And if nothing else, like I said, I'll have a conversation with the board and the senior leaders and tell them, hey, this is a direction that this is a regional approach, a regional Law and Justice Council would like to see this role fulfilled and how we're moving forward with it. So,
Mike, I know that we're past time by a minute or two, but would you be willing to just give a real quick, maybe couple minutes synopsis on the site visit we had from MacArthur as well as JMI? Because I know that MacArthur grant is not under SRLJC, but many of the people here are, part of or touched by MacArthur grants. Maybe they would like to know, about the visit that's happened the last couple of days.
So I didn't get a lot of time. And is it Nia or Nida? Nida, that's what I said. Okay, because I heard when she introduced herself, it sounded almost different. So I initially met with her and we had a conversation over the present initiatives and how the initiatives are going. And I had an opportunity to talk about supported release, and I had the opportunity to talk about the micro grant along with the rideshare program, and shared some of the information with them as well. They'd like to see more progress going, especially in the supported release program. But we were able to get a lot of their answers addressed by having them have a visit with Pioneer. Pioneer explain their processes on the supported release, how they, re-engage them, and, unbeknown to me, they connect up with them four or five times trying to get them to come back to the program. And so the stats on the overall success of it doesn't look great. It looks like the efforts being put forth. And is it JCI or what's the other group?
JMI.
It's not beer anymore, so I want to go to beer. So they were more favorable about everything that's going on in Spokane. They said you really have a lot to brag about because there's a lot of good things going on in Spokane. They enjoyed the meeting that they had with the commissioners, and they felt like they got good information on it. You have to take off, Judge? Okay, see you later. They felt like it was, those areas were going along pretty good. They really want to be a part of coming back and just working with the diversion group and working on some of the diversion stuff that they can offer some site visit, opportunities to go and check out some other things. They want to stay engaged with it. And really what it came down to is that they understand that a lot of these things are being newly formed, like this group and the core group getting re-engaged. The initiatives are old because they started back when Maggie was here, but there's a lot of new blood on this panel, a lot of new people working on it. So they're going to look for an opportunity to kind of push the capstone out a bit, and then give us an opportunity to kind of readdress some of these things and see which ones we would like to see as programs moving forward, for the capstone grant. Nothing but complete applause and happiness and joy over the rideshare program. Everybody feels like it's a good program, but it is a very expensive program. When you're talking about spending 30 grand in a month, that's a lot of money we're going through. And so that clearly, as they stated to me, is clearly going to be one thing that they're going to try to look and see if there's a sustainability plan moving forward. And what does that look like? It is in a way of an MOU between the city and the county, offering up X amount of dollars, going back to targeting specific, opportunities for the ride instead of having this broad net, as it was talked about in the core group. maybe narrowing the focus to your council, courts, to treatment, and then see if there's some, cost savings on the other end of it, so it's not so broad. They're engaged, they want to come back. I don't know for sure that, in talking with Nita, where the MacArthur Foundation itself is going to land with the grant, but certainly the other folks were very interested in keeping it moving forward and wanted to write out kind of a robust plan for us, saying these are the things that they are doing right, particularly this group. They're very impressed with this group and the things that were taking place. But those things are silent to everybody else. They don't know that there's a regional effort to try to make all these improvements as well. There's some dissatisfaction in measure one that, and as far as that, that initiative going forward, and that was expressed to me as well, but I kind of talked through measure one with them and told them kind of the rationale and how we got here and where we were going with it, and not advocating for it or advocating against it, just the challenges that we face with a substantial backlog and in the way of felony cases, individuals with thousands of days of length of stay, waiting to get to trial or get their cases resolved and that type of stuff. So I think once I kind of just ironed the playing field out a little bit, they really did understand that we are putting our best foot forward. And even though the report cards don't look that great, even for supported release, which is honestly hasn't been going that long because of all of the hoops that we had to jump through to get it kicked off in the first place and get it re-engaged. I think all in all, they were pleased with it. And so we'll have to wait to see what kind of the report is. Once I get something back from them, Justin, I'll share it with this group just so everybody can see. And you're right, it isn't an SRLJC work, per se, but most of you are on the core group anyway. And so I could see some benefit in doing that as well. So, Medea, can you tell them about the agenda? Where did they go all total? And I apologize, I've been busy in other meetings too, so I didn't get a lot of chance to follow them around.
So Monday we went to the Crisis Stabilization Center. Then they went to the Superior Court first appearance, and then the other ones went to meet with the members of the county commissioners. Tuesday we had the core team meeting. Then we went to Pioneer to tour the supported release in the rideshare areas and talk with Darren about those programs. Then they also did a jail and Geiger tour. And then today they met with pretrial and talk about diversion. And then they met with us.
Kind of the debrief for us. So that's kind of it. And their take on Pioneer does 3 programs for us. They do the rideshare program. Actually, I think they do another program for district court on court date reminders too, if I remember right. So maybe 4 programs. They run the Crisis Stabilization Center, and then they also do the supported release. So they spend quite a bit of time down there because those are a lot of the big things that are going on and talking through some of those things. So they had some good suggestions. They said they're going to type out a report and send it our way. So.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate the report. I'm sure that there are people that are on this call that are interested. So appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's important, Justin. I mean, we've got to it's all information that we need and all information that we're working on. Anything else? Laura, did you have a comment or did I see a comment?
Yeah, no, I'm good.
You're good? Okay. But I did have an opportunity to meet last night with Millwood and have a good conversation, over some of the justice stuff that we're doing with their council. It went really well. It shows you though that at the level, at Millwood's level, they're concerned as much as we are and everyone else. They see the crime, they see the rise in felonies, they read the newspapers. And so they've taken a really kind of a twist to kind of become more involved with the public safety side of it, which I thought was good. Those are the kind of conversations we need to have. So, All right, anything else? Colin, anything from the world of the public defenders? No?
I'm good.
Nothing over there, okay. All right, well then I'll give you guys back to, actually, I'll give you guys, I'll take some time away, about 12 minutes away from you. So anyway, you guys have a good day and happy to talk with you. See you later.
Thanks.
Oh,